Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Juchoy Rokas with U.S. Army, co-chair of the Anthropometry Technical Committee of the International Ergonomics Association. I am also joined today by my co-chair, Dr. Sandra Alimonimut, with the Institute of Biomechanics of Valencia in Spain. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, marks the fourth and final webinar in our first series on the fundamentals of anthropometry. Throughout this series, we've focused on the core principles behind how we measure and use human body dimension data. A long-standing assumption in our field is that measurements are comparable across studies. Historically, with standardized protocols such as the Martin anthropometric method, most variability came from the measurer. With the adoption of 3D body scanning technologies, new sources of variability have emerged. So today's session will focus on how we ensure comparability between traditional and modern measurement method. Today, we are very honored to have two distinguished speakers with us. Dr. Makiko Koch, Emeritus Researcher at National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology, is a leading expert in human body variation, anthropometry, and 3D scanner variation. And also Dr. Masaki Muchimaru, the same institute fellow, has extensive expertise in measurement and modeling of human functions and has held key leadership role in ISO standardization. Before we begin, a quick note on logistics. Please use the chat tool to submit your questions during the presentation. We will address all questions at the end of the webinar. Thank you again for being here, and I look forward to today's presentation. Dr. Matsumaru.
Okay. Thank you for joining this webinar. I'm Masaki Muchimao, and Makiko is my colleague. But unfortunately today I'm in Kyoto, in Japan, and Makiko is in Tokyo, a separate place. And I guess due to some computer skills issue, it is difficult to join this webinar uh, by her alone. So anyway, I'd like to start on my presentation. But basically, this presentation slides were developed by Makiko. Today's topic is quality control of anthropometric data. Okay, so shall we start? So, this is the agenda. First is something like a short history of the anthropometry and the standardization. And the second is the main topic of this presentation is the quality of anthropometric data, comparability, reliability, and background information. And one more is that we are working at an ISO international standardization. So, what kind of international standards was established related to quality control of anthropometric data? I will talk about this kind of information. And not only each measurement, but also the total anthropometric databases should be controlled of the quality. Our fourth topic is quality control of databases. That's today's agenda. Start with a short history. So, anthropometry. What is anthropometry? Anthropometry is a comprehensive methodology for measuring the human body, standardized to ensure the reproducibility of measurements. So, standardization started in the end of the 19th century, as it is essential to ensure the comparability to measurements taken by different researchers. So, how do you say, to gather the data measured by a different researcher, different location, sources should be compared to understand how do you say, human body and so on. So one is an 1882 Frankfurt Agreement. the 13th General Congress of the German Anthropological Society. That was an agreement of the head orientation. As you know, it is a Frankfurt plane. So 3 point was to define the Frankfurt plane. Then 1906, this is next is a Monaco Agreement. The 13th International Congress on Prehistoric Historic Anthropology and Archaeology. So at the time, agreement of 32 cranial and 24 head and face measurement. And next is in the 1912. Geneva Agreement is on the 14th Congress. So agreement of the 49 body measurement. So 1914, and Martin's textbook Anthropology, this is one. So latest version is published in 1988. So it was, as you know, very famous one, Ralph Martin edited this book, and Martin's methods are still widely used this today in this figure and photographs using the calipers and tape measures, and all those definitions of items not listed in textbook follow the same basic principle. 1940s, anthropometry for technological design started. So before then, anthropometry is how do you say used in anthropology, understanding the human body and comparing the human body in different locations and so on. So, but many measurement items were also used in engineering anthropology, such as to design human-centered design based on a vehicle or desks or chairs, of course, and every wearables and so on. So measurements in the working posture, hand dimensions, and another measurement for apparatus also discussed. When considering exports and imports, that is an cross-border interaction of the goods, data from countries of other than one's own is also necessary. So we should know that how do you say users body dimension in other countries. We have to export the product to that country. So that is 1940s. And 1980s, activities for standardization for anthropometry for ergonomic design started in ISO, the International Standardization Organization. So technical committee ISO TC 159, that is related to ergonomics and human factors. That the technical committee has several subcommittees. The subcommittee 3 is related to anthropometry and biomechanics. This subcommittee 3 has three working groups in present. And working group 1 is anthropometry. So today's topic is discussed in this working group 1. And around 2000, the 3D body scanners have come to use in anthropometric surveys. So we have to discuss how do you say standardization of the scan drive measurement, how to compare the scan drive measurement with traditional anthropometry. So all the quality control of anthropometric data. So users of anthropometric data are designers, especially in those kind of engineering. Anthropometry is users are not anthropologists but designers, and the data is assumed to be as follows. One is comparability, measurement with the same name and measured using the same definition and method. So it is such as comparable. This data and this data can be compared with each other. And the reliability, no need to worry about measurement errors. Users of the data do not worry about measurement errors. Do not, how do you say, care of the irregular values due to mistakes and so on. And they means and users of the anthropometric data, they need sufficient information of the measured population. So users or designers or design something to the target population. So the database, how do you say, should cover the target population or not. Users can determine that if the data belonging to the population they need. User can determine if the data represents the target population. Okay, start with a comparability. The comparability is a measurement with the same name and measured using the same definition and method. So traditional anthropometry and in some cases in a 3D anthropometry both use of landmarks. So body landmarks and on the surface. So each landmark has the name. So landmark with the same name have the same definition and have the same definitions of point to point distance, surface distance, the projection distance, anything that should be same definition and measured with the same instrument. So body height measurement using the anthropometer or stadiometer, which is an how do you say standard and the same measurement condition, how to control the posture of the subject, how to control the breathing condition of the subject, and what is the clothing of the subject. And of course, the same procedure. This is a small experiment to clarify the effect of the posture. So abduction of upper arm significantly influence the position of the acromion. So we find how do you say, surface landmarks by an expert measurer and then put motion capture markers on the landmarks. And any other position we place the markers. This is because we should understand the posture. So other marker is to how do you say get a posture and surface marker on the in this case acromion is used for measurement. So arms are abducted from natural standing posture to a little bit now wider. So this is the result measured by the motion capturing system. Then abduction of the right upper arm, and then height of right acromion is increased in the subject 2 and subject 1, and due to the acromion height, by acromion breadth, that is the measurement. And acromion height is one measurement, and by acromion breadth is usually used measurements, and those are kind of decreased from the increasing the abduction of the upper arm. So this result shows that abduction of upper arm significantly influences the position of the acromion and thus measurement defined using acromion. So that, as I told you, so posture is strongly affected to the measurement. So the measurer should control the subject posture as a standard posture. The next one, effective instrument. Body height, the stature measured using one is an anthropometer. Anthropometer is on a left figure, and the stadiometer is on a right figure. So in Japan, usually annual how to say health check and stature was measured by stadiometer. So, but international standards, stand and stature should be measured by anthropometer, not stadiometer. So, the first one in this figure in the left one is the international standard measurement equipment. Anyway, so now posture changes and depending on the instrument. Uh, Measured by the stadiometer is about 10 millimeter, 1 centimeter taller than the anthropometer. Another one, is a cloth height. It is one of the very difficult measurement procedure. So, cloth level is identified using the plate is an left one, and or the anthropometer head of the anthropometer directly. So, tomb is an arm of the anthropometer, 1 centimeter, 10 millimeter shorter. That is our result. Okay, that is an comparability, and we should care several factors. And the second is reliability. So reliable data is not affected in the measurement errors. We should discuss measurement errors. So one, in this case, an observer measurer is a very, very important factor of the measurement errors. So one is intra-observer measurement error. Intra is how do you say, so one of errors within now observer. A difference between measurement taken by the same observer on the same subject repeatedly. We did these experiments. We recruited several expert measurer, observer, and several subjects. And we asked to now observer to measure the subject several times. And all this is an result. And another one is inter-observer measurement error. Inter is a between observer. So difference between measurements taken by the different observer measurers on the same subject has an directionality such as a bias according to each observer's measurement, such as a style and habit. Oh, these are the two different measurement of errors should be discussed. This is an formula to discuss the measurement error. Measurement of the ith subject taken by the jth observer, and the total error is mean is a mean of the population. The second term is a characteristic of the participant eyes, and the third term is a characteristic of observer J, such as an inter-observer bias, and finally is a random error. So mean is an intra-observer error is random. Random error does not affect it to the mean. The variance inter between observer measurement error affected the mean and the standard deviation. Reliable data is not affected by measurement errors. How to reduce the measurement error? So we can assess the measurement error, inter-observer error, intra-observer error, but to control the reliability, we have to reduce the measurement error. Performance of the measurer observer is the main cause of measurement error. That is our result. We did lots of experiments, and finally we found that most important factor is an error in measurers. Uh, to improve the skill of measurer by education training is very, very important. So the table shows a factor and effects. So factor one is a tool, a traditional. In this case, we don't use 3D scanners, just only traditional instruments. At the case, we have to concern about accuracy of the instrument. The second is a human. So measurer is a skill of measurer, and the subject and the reliability of the posture or blessing and so on. The effect, the tool is negligible. So comparing with human errors. So instruments are simple and easily calibrated. So human, especially in a measurable error, can be large, and the subject-oriented error can be controlled with an appropriate instruction from the measurer. So everything is caused by measurer. Okay, so we'd like to continue now how to discuss intra-observer within observer measure measurement error. One a measurer measures each n different participant twice. We ask to the measurer to measure n participants twice, and we got two measurements for each participant. Okay, and the difference between the first and the second measurement of participant I, di, is how to say calculated in this formula. And based on these data, we can calculate three indices. One is a technical error of measurement, TEM. TEM is defined in this formula. The second is percentage of random error variance. So squared term divided by the squared standard deviation. Finally, is an mean absolute difference. MAD is as defined in this formula. So next is an inter-observer measurement error. Two measurers measure each of n participants once. We collected those data also, and we calculated DI and the technical error measurement and mean absolute difference also in inter-observer error. And the correlation coefficient is not good to evaluate the bias. So, one more important point for the reliability is to edit the data. Edit means to eliminate the irregular values due to the mistakes, especially in using the traditional measurement. There is no digital connection. So you see the scale and see this is 1022 or 4 or something. The case and how to say one more that's in a task of the measurer, and another person to help the measurer record the values. So one mistake is to read the scale. The second mistake can be the to record the scale. Anyway, so at the time, and we have some mistakes that we have to check the mistake and we eliminate it. Simple way is a univariate. So outside of the range and plus minus three standard deviation. Oh, it's a very rare. Automatically eliminate and those value, but it's not so good idea. So three plus minus all out of the range of the plus minus some three standard deviation is in some cases it is a very highly say tall person and very small person. It is available. So in this figure, now red circled value is at plus minus 3 standard deviation in a Japanese and body height, but not irregular value. There is this person is an actually very short height. So Makiko strongly recommended to not only univariate, but also how do you say, to consider scattergram between different two values. As a case, easy to find irregular data, and you can eliminate those kind of value from the databases. That is data editing. Data editing is to find a mistake and to eliminate a mistake value. That is another point of the reliability. So, so to ensure compatibility and reliability, there's a two step. One is a before anthropometric survey. So to improve the performance of measurers, to follow the established methods and procedures, and to reduce the measurement errors. That's something like a training. For our cases, and when we did an anthropometric survey, So Makiko is a master of the anthropometric survey, and she recruited several majors. So before starting the anthropometric survey, she recruited several, how do you say, test subjects to train the measurers and to control the quality between the measurers and within the measurers. So anyway, that is an before anthropometric survey. After anthropometric survey, we have to remove the eliminate the irregular values by data editing to find the irregular value, not only the univariate scattergrams, but also how do you say multivariate scattergrams, easy to find an irregular value. Okay, the third one is background information. So, measurement data is of course, and the main content is data itself. And how do you say, stature is something and something and so on. But so you collect an measurement from the some population in your country. At that case, and you should add the information on. One is a measurement population. So what is an I say just only a male or male and female? What is an age range? And when you measured and so on, that's in the measured population. So users means an data users to want to judge that provided data is an fit our target population or not. The second is sampling method. So how to recruit an subject. So it is to judge if the provided data represents the target population. For, for example, so uh, recruited subjects just only in one university, or recruited subject is in a same age range, but not only the university student, but also any other citizens. That is a very different. So sampling method should be add an information, a number of subjects, and by the sex and age groups. Of course, that in important information. A secure change. A secure change is I will talk later. And the measurement method. What method did you use? And a traditional anthropometry based on international standards or 3D scanners. Skill of measurers and procedure for data editing. Usually, these kind of information is lacking, but it's very important to understand the reliability. So uh, the databases and a survey was well controlled and comparability and reliability. How to control the comparability, how to control the reliability should be written at databases. Okay, so this is secure changes. So in Japan, how to say this is an body height, but body height it's in a how to say go body height of the 20 years old Japanese population. Every plot is an mean of the 20 years old Japanese population. And upper line indicates a male, latter line is a female. As you can see, an average stature is remarkably, how do you say, developed based on the year of measurement. So this is due to the nutrition, maybe. So anyway, so this is a very important information. So in this figure, after the 2000, so very small secure change. Before then, very heavy secure change. So the old data means an measurement date is 10 years ago or 12, 20 years ago. Oh, it is all can be used or not is strongly related to the secular change of the population. So in Japan, secular changes and how do you say, significantly stopped. So, our institute now providing the data measured in 2010 maybe, but it's quite older data. Now we are living in the 2026 and so on. 15 years ago, but secular changes already stopped. So 15 years ago, data is not so bad. So they can be utilized to product design to a present population. Anyway, those kind of important information of the data, especially in the life. The second is an 3D anthropometry. So I talked about an traditional anthropometry, and then I'll talk about 3D anthropometry. So at the beginning, I told you after 2000, around 2000, several anthropometric survey is not only not traditional anthropometry, but also body scanner are used. In some cases, no traditional anthropometry, just only in a body scanners. Those kind of data is still available. So as a case, we should discuss the quality control of the body scanner. So also comparability and reliability. So basic principle is body scanner is treat as one measure. So, condition specific enough to body scanners is a posture control. Arm and legs and abducted to reduce an occluded area. That is see the figure. So usually traditional anthropometry is measured in B is an light standing posture. But using the body scanner and there's an how do you say armpit or crotch, those are how do you say closed. As a case, those are occluded area. So, usually measurement by body scanner, so the posture is a little bit changed. I told you the posture is strongly affected to the measurement, but using the body scanner, those kind of arms and legs are abducted to reduce the occluded area. And positive link features is no pressure from the instrument. Using the caliper, using the tape measure, it can, how do you say, press the skin a little bit. Now our skin has very soft. The skin is how do you say, a little bit deformed due to the instrument. In contrast, a body scanner is usually non-contact optical measurement is no pressure from the instrument. Body sway during the scanning. It's an unpleasant. Most of the commercial scanner is very, very quicker. It's an, how do you say, due to the technological development, and around the 2000 to 2010, several 3D scanner requires over 10 seconds one scanning. So 10 seconds and one or two bodies sway in the 10 seconds. As a case, how do you say, body sway effect is too affected to the measurement. The third is an occlusion area. Dark parts cannot be measured when the light is used. So this is a special table to manage the factors related to the reliability of scan-derived measurement. What scan-derived measurement is, we, how do you say, collected the surface data points using the body scanner. And those kind of data points, we calculated the length traditional measurement from the surface data. those kind of calculated measurement from the scanners and surface data is called scan derived measurements. Okay, so one is a tool, and hardware dependent is an accuracy of the scanner system hardware, and of course, after measurements such as a data point cloud, we should do something with specialty software such as data merging and any other editing. So, as a case, performance of scanner system software is also affected to the errors. And the performance of the landmarking software. Landmarking is, in some cases, we, how to say, expert palpated the body surface and to put the markers on the body surface. And the scanner itself detects the marker automatically and automatically, how do you say, label the marker name using AI or something. But in another cases, without any landmarking and no expert measurer palpated to the body surface, automatically calculated the landmark position. Logically, it's very difficult. This is because actually expert is I say, and palpation is something not only in a touching, not only in a seeing, how to say, to find a bony position from the skin, but a scanner is non-contact machine. So logically, it is difficult to estimate a landmark automatically. But anyway, that is one of the performance of the software and the performance measurement and calculation. So, human is a skill measurer. So, one is how do you say, landmark position is how do you say, palpated by the measurer. As a case, it's affected to the scan derived measurement. Reliability and repeatability of the posture. So, body sway or any other subject oriented error is also affects the total scan derived measurement. That is an table. And I like to focusing on the hardware. So, in ISO standardization, focusing on how to evaluate the accuracy of the body scanner. This is an existing standards that evaluate the accuracy of scanners. So we use a test object which has a true value. How to get a true value? It is a given mine a coordinate measuring machine (CMM) and a light upper figure that ensure traceability. What is a traceability? Traceability is refers to unbroken chain of measurement relating to the instrument measurement to known standard. So you have the plastic scale, very cheap plastic scale, but usually it has an ISO or any kind of standardization. It is a traceability. So cheap plastic scale was calibrated by a little bit better metal scale. That metal scale is also calibrated much more better metal scale and calibrated that in unbroken chain to contact with the light speed. That is the traceability. So CMM is an only one traceable measurement system in the standards. So we should get the true value of the 3D shape by the CMM. And we use a sphere ball, and we measure the ball surface point with this CMM and calculate it in radius of the ball. This ball was a specialized surface coating, is a titan nitride coating, and it is available for scanners. So evaluation by experiment is measure and participant by a body scanner and by an experienced measurer. Measurements by an experienced measurer taken by the true value. and the difference of the ice participant between scandular measurement and manual measurement. So this is a comparability between scandular measurement and traditional measurement. We collected lots of data in the traditional measurement. We standardized the measurement method in traditional measurement. You can use the scanners and you can use the scandular measurement, but basic idea is to ensure the comparability between the standardized measurement and the traditional manual measurement. So we recommended to select several test panels and to compare and body scanner for scanning survey and traditional measurement and calculate mean difference and calculate 95 confidence interval of the mean difference. Scandular measurement and the manual measurement are considered close enough when and so on. So, in the ISO standard and 20685 part 1, define the, how to say, allowable level between scanners and traditional measurement. Those tables was defined by actual inter-observer error. So that was tested by the U.S. military. So several measurement types and inter-observer error. It is human and human between the measurers. So when the scanner is one of the expert, so scanner the error should be within the inter-observer error. That is the idea of this table. So maximum mean difference should be within this table. A little bit tough, but it is the basic idea. And we also evaluate the repeatability of relative position landmarks in using not living human, but a dummy. So dummy placed in one location and different, little bit different location and measured landmark position several times and to compare the relative position of the landmark between scans. And one more is using the living person to evaluate an occluded area just only in these kind of figures. That is a standardized evaluation protocol. Okay, so finally, I'll show you the international standards on the quality control of Anthropometric data and Anthropometric databases. So, oh, that's so much time for me. Okay, so this is an, how do you say, uh, table of our standards on of 7050 part 1 and 15535 is everything it indicates the number of the standards. So upper part is a traditional measurement, and the horizontal way is a comparability, reliability, terminology and methods, validation protocols, database description, data contents, and application. And the darker colored indicates the quality control standards. The traditional measurement is an terminology and methods are standardized in 7050 part 1. And the major loss skill is a 70 to 50 part 4. And the database description and validation process is an data editing in a 15535. And 3D scanning is an 20685 part 1. And part 2 is an also measurement, error, how to evaluate the error, as I told you. And 17097 is the latest one, and how to uh, standardize the terminology and the method of the data editing in the 3D body. So ISO standards and provide a measurement method to ensure the comparability between databases, protocol to evaluate the reliability of the data, and information necessary background information that provided, and the procedure of the quality control. Standards provide and methods and protocols and data providers and conduct the quality control, measure training, data editing, and provide basic statistical data from the member countries. Okay, that is an 70 to 50 part one. And latest one is an updated in the 2017 basic human body measurement. In this document, this kind of figure, 6-2 measurement was standardized. Basically, how to say, work as an position or body position, so on. Second is an 15535. It's a basic requirement of Anthropometric databases. So what kind of information should be provided? So which side was measured and sampling technique, sample size and type of clothing, measurement, measure training, background information, and process detect and review irregular values, age grouping, and that was standardized in this document. The next one is a 3D body scanner, 20685. As I told you, this table is included by the 20685. So we recommend to compare the body scanner and the traditional measurement, scanner measurement and traditional measurement, and to ensure that your scanner measurement is within this bias between the measurement. Next is an 70 to 50 part 4 or latest one. It is an expert performance of a skilled anthropometrist. So measure is the most important factor to decide the reliability of anthropometric data, as I told you. So how to control the performance of the skilled anthropometrist is an technical report. And 20685 part 2 is, as I told you, it is an evaluation protocol of the 3D scanners to using the sphere, to using the dummy, to using the living human to evaluate the occluded area. The latest one is an 17097. Is a 3D human body scan data. Methods for processing the human body scan data. Terminology. What is the registration? What is the margin? What is denoising? And adjustment on the point cloud resolution, meshing, texture mapping, and mesh subdivision and decimation. Template matching is defined and guidance is how do you say standardized in this document. Okay, one more is on databases, not only the measurement. 7250 part 2 on the latest version is just 2024. This document includes data contents itself. So statistical data summary of worldwide body measurements. So Makiko was a project leader, and the first edition was established in 2010. The light figure is a news release of the ISO Focus magazines. Anyway, so in present, 11 countries, it is called member bodies in ISO. Those data was included in this database. Austria, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, the US, Japan, Korea, Thailand, China, mainland China, Philippines, and Kenya. And age range, background data, representativeness of the sample, sampling method, statistical data. Those information is included this document. Very, very valuable document. And the 1750 part 3 is not only the data contents, but also the worldwide, how do you say, representative value was standardized. Worldwide case, Asian case, and European case. And we calculated the representative 5 percentile value of each measurement and 95 percentile of each measurement. Then everything the univariate analysis. One more is a quality control of Anthropometric databases. Quality control is in the process for looking at the goods when they are being product, make certain that all the goods are the intended standard. Most of standards established in ISO 70 TC159 Subcommittee 3 Working Group 1 provide methods and procedures for quality control. Data provider is responsible for the quality control. ISO technical report 27050 part to provide a statistical data on the working age population from 12 individual member countries. So you can, how do you say, get an data, not raw data, it says a statistical summary of each measurement. Okay, so our working group one, checking the databases. So every member body provided the latest data to a working group, and Makiko made these kind of graphs and to check the irregular values, especially in the mean or max, and strongly affected by the irregular values. So anyway, so we discuss it is acceptable or not. And finally, we accepted, if we found several irregular values, we asked to each country to reconsider again, re-edit again. And then we discuss with each other. And finally, we accepted all the data. It was updated on the standards. So all comparability, reliability for 1D measurement and landmarking 3D shape was presented in my presentation. So we placed several standards on comparability and reliability, as I told you. So several issues and anthropometric survey is known. Anthropometric survey using the body scanner is increasing, but the comparability of scan derived and traditional measurement are not always conducted. When the comparability is not evaluated, scan derived measurement are supposed to not be comparable with the traditional measurement. How to deal with these kind of the data? User need to decide and use a scalar measurement or not considering the required accuracy of their purpose. Thank you very much. And this is a small conclusion. Answer data and the standards. So standardization of traditional answer better with the late 19th century. And development of international standard Anthropometry for ergonomics started in the 80s. And procedure ensuring the comparability and reliability of the Anthropometric data are presented. These protocols are published in the several ISO standards and technical reports. And the quality control Anthropometric data, a protocol evaluating the comparability of scan derived and the traditional 1D measurement established in 20685, but not always evaluated. The provider is responsible for the quality control of the Anthropometric data and expected to present the information of the users to judge the quality of the data. Users is the designer. Users of Anthropometric data need to judge the quality of the provided data from these information. Okay, thank you very much. And we will hold an IEA 2027 in London, UK. Please join the IEA Congress and can be joined the Technical Committee of Anthropometry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mutsumaru. We really appreciate that very detailed presentation and everything. We really appreciate that. So for the questions, I see one hand up. I believe the attendees cannot really talk, so please submit your questions using the chat tool. Okay, so that we could basically read it and then address all the questions. So please do that. And then in the meantime, when I quickly check the webinar chat box, I don't see any questions. So while we are waiting for anything just submitting, I have just one very quick questions. So Dr. Mutsumaru, so when you are talking about the all-hour error and then also the multiple different types of calculation, so that it's very simple question. So the all-hour error is type of MAD or TM, or so you just explain multiple different types. Which type is it for the allow error?
Okay, so detailed answer should be answered by Makiko. Anyway,
Ah,
so anyway, so we use TEM and MAD both. So those
mhm.
are different type of indices and to evaluate the quality of the measurement errors. So Makiko provided an journal paper related to this inter-observer error and or intra-observer errors. Please refer this paper that is more detailed and discussed in real data, not only in the methodology. We apply these indices based on our measurement data. So, sorry, that's my answer. Is it okay?
Yeah, yeah, thank you very much. And then I just got a direct message from Nancy that all attendees can unmute themselves and then can enter reactions. Nancy, does that mean that can they just vocal about their questions? They can basically speak?
That should be the case from what I can see.
Okay, then if that's the case, then I'll just go back to the very first person who actually raised the hand. Cassie, are you still there? Can you unmute yourself and then ask question if that's possible?
I can see in a question. So can I?
Yeah,
Uh,
let's address
okay, all
question
right. Okay,
as you
so one
see the
question is,
voice.
are
Yeah.
you aware of the effort by a standards group to define the measuring practices that correlate physical space practice of the virtual practice? Okay, I have no idea, and we did not discuss of this kind of practices and everything in this case and physical space practices. But actually, it is a very how do you say interesting idea. Uh, so yeah, just my comment. So for example, usually a measurement process is taken by how to say small region in Japan or in US or something. In US cases, and Japan is not so big country, but in US is an western area and eastern area. It's a little bit far, but usually, for example, Caesar project, same person is moving each other. In contrast, in China, they also big. They try to control a different measure in different university. At that case, they gathered the measure into the one physical place and to control the measurers. But if we can use something like training in a virtual space, so it is easy to control the not only in one big country, but also how do you say, much more European measurement or Asian measurement. Those kind of very interesting topic, but unfortunately not yet discussed. If you are interested, and please join our discussion group.
Right, so we kind of missed the very first question. Let me read it for you. Thank you so much for the talk. Have you conducted a validation study for the 3D body scanning system in accordance with ISO 20685-1 in the past? If so, were you able to keep the error values below the threshold specified in Table 4, which is in slide 31 of your
Yeah.
presentation?
Yes, logically, and this standard is still active and still available.
Mm-hmm.
We strongly recommend to check based on this table. At that case, and it's very tough. How do you say? Measurement survey project recruited a subject for testing the comparability. So body scan measurement and traditional measurement both for the same subject
Mm-hmm.
and comparing on a minimum 40 40 test subjects should be recruited for checking the comparability. That is written in 20685. So it's a logically good idea, but practically very tough. So that is an issue. So especially in one more issue is, so for example, developing countries, there's no expert can be found for the traditional measurement. So nobody in that country have no experience to measure by calipers and so on. So in contrast, it is very easy to collect the body measurement by a scanner. They can buy a scanning system and they can get data based on the scanner. So I talked about database and 272 sorry, part two, TR part two, as a case and several countries data is just only the body scanners, scan drive measurement, not any comparability checking process. But we discussed in the working group, but it is something how do you say, worthy to add these data. This is no data is an how do you say, lack of the information. Yeah, that is any kind of issues.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we can address just one more question. We have just one last question here. So, do you see the virtual practice to become more precise? Our office has seen many issues with scanning accuracy and differences from physical measurements. So, Andrea, I think you're talking about the 3D scan extracted measurement and manual measurements, the difference between those two, and whether the difference are going to be like narrower in the future and then more so in yes, okay, so that's the question. So Dr. Mutsumura, what do you think? So in the future, the scan extracted dimensions could be very close to the manual measurements in terms of the accuracy and reliability wise, so that we could potentially replace. Is it even possible thought or expectation?
Okay, so it's very tough question,
It's
but
very, I know it's a big question.
my personal opinion, it's different from the Makiko's opinion. So in future, actually, most of measurement can be taken by only scanners, not manual measurers. This is because, as I told you, especially in the developing country, it is difficult to find an expert measurers. So it's much more convenient, much more large scale data can be obtained by the scanners. At that case, two issues. One is comparability between the traditional measurement and the scan-derived measurement, as I told you. So this is because most of the existing data is mainly provided by traditional measurement. New data should be compared with an existing data. That is one issue. But this existing data is a little bit older, and new data is an add from the scan drive measurement. So in some cases, this is not so big issues. Everything is a scan drive measurement. That is not so severe issues. But another issue is between scanners. So A scanner and B scanner, no comparability was in present. Everything is a master data is a manual measurement. A scanner compare with the manual measurement. B scanner compare with manual measurement. Finally, comparability between the scanner is ensured using the manual measurement. Of course, we can skip the manual measurement, but we have to develop how to compare and ensure the comparability between the scanners. That is a new issue. We can, how do you say, release a physical measurement, but we should discuss how to reduce inter scanner errors and how to ensure the reliability and comparability between scanners, or not using the manual measurement. That is the new issue.
Yeah, that's totally big issue in the future. We are out of time, but there is one last question, but I think it's kind of similar to the question that you just addressed, a little different perspectives, because like it asks about the AI. So there are many scanners just take a couple of pictures and then use so-called AI to obtain the body measurements. What's your opinion about this kind of data?
Okay. So, especially in recent years, not the scanners, but just only in 2 or 3 pictures and using machine learning or AI. So, any kind of the measurement can be calculated from those kind of pictures. In the background, lots of data was used for machine learning. So I personally check the accuracy of this AI-based scan-derived measurement. At that case, we measure that manual measurement, and we also get not a scanner, but an AI-based measurement. Uh, in my experience, it's not so accurate. But uh, it depends on how to say use cases.
Mm-hmm.
So just only I'm not sure that most of the use cases and selection of the apparel equipment or clothes, the case not so tight fit. So it is can be acceptable. So anyway, so we should consider how to check the accuracy of these methods. So I talked about how do you say 20685 part 2, that's in a sphere was used for accuracy check. It is available for optical scanner, but AI based measurement is did not use how do you say surface data points directly calculated from the picture to the dimensions. At that case, our evaluation protocol cannot be available to the AI-based measurement system. So that is a new issue. We have to develop a new evaluation protocol available for the AI-based, not a scanner, but measurement system. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mutsumaru. And then thank you so much for, again, for the very detailed slides and everything. And I believe all the attendees today had a really great time, I believe, I hope. And thank you so much for everybody attending this, the webinar. I'm pretty sure it's in the morning here, but all over the world, it'll be in the afternoon or in the middle of the night. So as of today, we finished the first series of the webinar, and then next time we're going to talk about the applications of anthropometry. So anthropometry in ergonomics, anthropometry in health and medicine, anthropometry in fashion and apparel. So the next series is also going to be very informative and then enjoyable for all of you. So thank you again for everyone. And then I think that is the closing remarks for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you
Have a
very
nice day.
much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.